and welcome to the Happier Marriage Podcast, a podcast for spouses longing to have a happier marriage so they can feel more connected, desired, and supported. Now, to start the show, here is your host and Sherpa, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified relationship coach, Kingsley Grant.
Thanks for joining me on the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast. This is episode 40, and in this episode, I will be sharing with you on this topic, how to maintain your sanity being married to a narcissist. This is going to be a juicy episode, as you can just imagine. Now, today's episode, as you'll see in a moment, is the audio from a YouTube video broadcast I did. It was very popular there. So I thought, hey, I need to share this with you, my podcast audience, because I believe that you chose podcast for a reason. So I need to also bring this to you as well. So I just chose to share the audio. And so this is a slight deviation from the series we've been in, but I think you'll appreciate it, as you can almost hear in my voice already. Now, to make sure you don't miss any of the episodes that is shared on this podcast, make sure you subscribe to the show today. Now, if you missed any of the past episodes, let me strongly encourage you to bookmark this podcast so you can quickly access the past shows. And you can always go to happiermarriagesecrets.com to access all the past episodes, right? But you can also find there as well blog posts as well. Now, if you're listening for the first time, let me say this. You may or may not agree with all that you will hear. And quite frankly, I don't expect you to. Why? Because you're smart. You can figure out some things by yourself. But what I do ask is that you come with an open mind, and here, as I present from a different angle, a different perspective, I believe that you've heard pretty much out there that is almost a regurgitating kind of presentation that a lot of people do. You'll see the difference here. Now, you might be triggered by some of what you'll hear on this episode because of that very fact. But that's one of the purpose of this show, is to stir things up and then take you in for what I call a solid landing. And you can always share your thoughts through comments that you'll make towards this episode, whether on social media or as a rating and a review that you'll leave on this platform that you're listening to. Now, this show is brought to you by kingsgrant.com, and our hope is that you will be challenged, inspired, and encouraged in this episode as in every other episode. So stay tuned.
So, the big question is this. How is it possible that you have a happier marriage when you feel like you've tried everything? Your spouse isn't making an effort. You're exhausted. You feel like giving up. Or there's so much hurt that's taken place between you and your spouse. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of Happier Marriage World? I hope you're ready for another round of the Happier Marriage Podcast. And like you've heard, it's going to be an interesting, I call it a juicy one. And for a reason, because the topic is how to maintain your sanity being married to a narcissist. Now, I know this word narcissism and narcissist being thrown around quite a bit. And that's why you're going to hear as you listen to the audio from the video broadcast I did. Now, every time you hear the word video, just think about it. I'm doing it live there. And you can also go over to my YouTube channel and see it if you wanted to. But just to remind you that you can watch topics like this on the YouTube channel at Kingsley Grant. Just search for Kingsley Grant and watch that as well as other topics. But how do you maintain your sanity if you're married to a narcissist? Now, again, you're going to hear in the audio version of the video that I did, the YouTube video, that I may come at a different angle. You may hear me say some things that you might not, again, like I said, agree with, but also it might surprise you. It might surprise you. So If you do go to the YouTube channel to watch it, make sure you subscribe there as well. Click on the like button if you like what you heard, and the notification bell so you don't miss any also video broadcasts. And you can also get shorter versions of some of the points that are made in this episode on my YouTube shorts as well. Okay, again, let me simply say thanks for joining me for this episode. And as you already heard, we're talking about how to maintain your sanity being married to a narcissist. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode, which is audio, as I mentioned before, from my YouTube broadcast. Welcome to today's video on my channel as I discuss with you how to stay married to a narcissist and maintain your sanity. You heard me right, because it's a topic that I believe is, or a word that's been thrown around so often. You may have used it yourself, or you may have your spouse may have used it, whether to you or about you, and in a time where you have conflict and will say, you are a narcissist, or you may have heard other people say that as well, right? But let me say that if I got $1 every time that someone have used that word at describing their spouse, their partner, to me, I would be a wealthy man, and I would possibly give you a few dollars. Now, I believe there is a misuse and abuse of that word narcissism, right? And no wonder the DSM, that's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health, that the 5th version removed it from the category it used to be under, because it's just a word that was, I think, probably misconstrued, and possibly they realized the error and what it's now doing, what is creating a monster that they didn't expect. So anyway, whatever reason that they used to remove it, I think it was important that they did. To have diagnosed someone with narcissistic personality disorder, that person would have to meet 5 or more of the following criteria over a period of time. It could not just be a one-off thing, a behavior that happens every now and then. They would have to be consistently behaving in this manner and meet 5 of these 9 criteria. I just want to mention them to you because I'm not going to spend too much time here, because that's not the purpose of this video today. And so the DSM points out 9 different features of narcissistic personality disorder that professionals, like someone like myself as a licensed professional, could look at and then create a diagnostic for somebody who meets these 5 or more of these criteria over a period of time. So here are the 9. I'm going to mention them very quickly and move on. And that is inflated self-esteem, or a grandiose sense of self-importance or superiority. Number 2, craving admiration, a constant craving of admiration. Number 3, exploitative relationships. That is, they're manipulation, master manipulators. Number 4, little or no empathy. Number 5, identify. The identity is easily disturbed. That means they just really can't handle criticism that much. They are thin-skinned, right? A lack of attachment and intimacy. They demonstrate that in so many ways. Feelings of depression or emptiness when they're not validated. And then a sense of entitlement that they have. And they can feel like others are envious of them. And it's just, just envy other people as well. Now, I know these are more a way that I put it so you can basically get a quicker understanding of that. The DSM may have other words to describe these 9, but that's in essence what they are. And that person would have to meet 5 out of the 9 of these traits over a period of time. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't people who would fit a narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis. Maybe your spouse could have fit that. And I'm not here to decide for you. That is something a psychiatrist would have to determine. But I believe majority of those who have been labeled as such are just wrongly labeled, right? Wrongly labeled, and that could have a negative effect upon your relationship if you have labeled your spouse that way, because you're now beginning to think of that person through the lens of narcissism. And so every behavior is now, that's narcissistic. So instead of working through and trying to figure out what's going on, it's easier, right? It's easier and quicker to label that behavior and now label your spouse. Now, I know why a spouse, it may be you, I know why a spouse would label their partner as narcissistic. And I want to give you three reasons why I think you would, or a spouse would label their partner as a narcissist. Now, see if any of these three resonates with you. And if so, I'd like to hear if they do. You can always drop a comment in the description below, and in the comments below the description that follows this video. Now, the three reasons that why I believe spouse may think their spouse is a narcissist, right? A spouse may believe their partner is, even though they have not been clinically diagnosed. It's possibly because the person, number one, is have an excessive self-importance. They just see themselves as almost like God's gift, right, to the world. They act like everything revolves around them, that they are, the sun that everything revolves around or orbits around. And it may make that spouse feel like they're not important or not valuable in the relationship. It's almost like they could do the relationship by themselves, right? So they act like everything is about them and they're the most important person in the world. And if your spouse is acting that way, I could see why you may feel, and I'm not saying they're not narcissistic, but I'm saying I could see why that's the first place you may go. The second reason I believe is just they lack empathy, which is one of the criteria that as narcissists just meets. That person lacks empathy. They only think about their own needs and what is in it for them, right? They don't think about how their actions affect other people, and they're in their own little bubble, right? They don't even notice when what's going on around them, or they may notice it, but they just choose to ignore it because it's not about them. And so it may make you feel, or a spouse feel, like their emotions, their feelings doesn't matter. Because again, that narcissist sucks up all the energy, all the oxygen about in that moment. And so they lack empathy. And number three, a very controlling behavior. They want to control everything in their environment, including you, their spouse. They may want, to make all the decisions. Is very one-sided and not allow their spouse to have any say, any input, right? They're the captain of the ship. They act as if they're the captain of the ship, and the spouse, you're just a passenger. You're just a sailor on the ship going along for the ride. And so wherever the ship goes, you go because they're the captain. And so it may make you feel, or a spouse feel, like they don't have any control over what happens in their lives, or where the ship goes, or where their life take them. That controlling element tend to come from a partner, and I can see how that would make you feel as if that person is narcissistic, right? Or is a narcissist, right? So in this video, I'm going to share with you the strategies that you as a spouse, if your partner is this way, or a spouse in general, can use these strategies to maintain your sanity and combat that narcissistic behavior that you're describing in your relationship. So let's dive into today's topic: how to stay married to a narcissist and maintain your sanity. Now, by the way, if you would like to get instant feedback with a numerical score on the state of your marriage and what to do about it, right, then you need to take the Happier Marriage Assessment quiz. That it's less than 90 seconds. Imagine less than 90 seconds, and you could have an immediate score of the state of your marriage and also what to do about it. So you can go to happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. So what are the strategies you are a spouse that may be living with someone that they consider to be a narcissist, and how do you maintain your sanity and combat the narcissism? Okay. Obviously, the way that you may be doing it, you may realize it's not working because it's very, very draining, very, very difficult to be in that situation, environment, day in and day out. And if that's you, I empathize. I'm going to say upfront that I empathize because it is draining. And I know that from talking to so many couples who find themselves in this kind of situation where they describe their spouse as a narcissist, right? And they would talk about how draining it is. And they feel like there's no let up. They can't get a break, right? So what can you do in the process? Well, I'm going to mention 5 things that this person may do and how you can combat those 5 areas. So, for example, a narcissist or a person who is narcissistic will use silent treatment to try to control the environment. They will just decide that, you know what, they're not going to talk to you or give you the time of day. And so remember, for you, when you're experiencing that, I want you to recognize that silent treatment is a form of emotional abuse, right? And it's not your fault. So don't take the bait. Remind yourself that you deserve to be treated with respect and hold to that. Breathe, pray, maintain your peace, and don't take the bait. Okay, let them stew by themselves, and they'll eventually come around. Okay, another thing you may do when they're offering the silent treatment is engage in self-care. Take care of yourself by doing things you enjoy. All right, read a book, watch a movie, spend time with friends. Don't let them stop you from doing those things. You can choose, because you are a person that as an individual, right? And you have autonomy, and you need to act as if you know that. And the third thing you can do in that area is seek support. Talk to a trusted friend, a family member, a therapist. Have a supportive person to talk to when you're experiencing these moments of feeling alone because of the silent treatment. Don't just kind of acquiesce and give in and let that become the moment, because you would have allowed them to, quote, win if you begin to kind of suck up and try to, they want you to come to them. And it's a form of control, and it's emotional abuse. Second thing you may see them do is that mentioned before is this inflated self-esteem, a sense of superiority or self-importance and nothing else about them, and you don't value much. So I want you to think about what you can do here. So it's acknowledge your feelings, right? It's understandable to feel frustrated or hurt or feeling ignored when this person is acting that way. So acknowledge these feelings that you're having and just find a healthy way to express them. Journaling, right? Meditating, praying, talking to a friend, but also set boundaries. Let your spouse know that these behaviors is not okay and that you won't tolerate it. This is what I find some spouses have a hard time doing. But I want to just be clear and consistent in enforcing your boundaries. Don't let up. Don't give in one time, because if you give in one time, you just set a precedent for them. And focus on your own accomplishments, because you're going to feel like less than. So instead of getting caught up in that need of them to feel superior and to drain you, focus on your own accomplishments and strengths. So kids, haven't accomplished much. I do believe you could find at least one thing to celebrate and remind yourself of your own value, right? Did you finish high school? Did you finish college? Do you have a certificate? Whatever, if you have anything of value, celebrate that. The third thing that they might be doing is blame, right? Blaming you or your a spouse for everything, never taking responsibility. So here's what you don't do. Don't take the blame. Refuse to accept the blame for things that are not your fault. So it can be helpful to have a clear understanding of what it is your responsibility within the relationship. And then if you know that you've been doing the things that you're supposed to do and acting in the role that you're supposed to, don't let them guilt you and blame you for things you haven't done. Refuse to accept that, right? That's one of those ways to combat that. Challenge their thinking. When they're beginning to blame, challenge that. Ask them, what is it that they're blaming you for? Let them be on the ropes to answer the question, right? This could help them to see that their thinking is not rational or fear, and maybe good luck in this area, but you still want to implement and experiment with that. Don't throw out that and think because they're going to be who they are. Challenge them in that area. And also, the third thing you may want to think about doing is build a support network around people in your life, and these people can help you to see that this behavior is not acceptable, right? But be careful who you choose here as well. Don't choose anybody to be this supportive network, Be very careful and selective in who you choose in friends or family. A therapist is really the best place to go, but one of the better places to go, one of the better places to go. If you have a pastor or clergy, a person in clergy, go and help and talk with them. Because those are the supportive network you want to have around you. The fourth thing that the spouse may try to do is isolate you from your family or your friends, and try to create conflict so that you kind of pull away from them. They will try to poison the water around you, so to speak. The water meaning the family members and friends. But stay connected. Stay connected. Regardless of what they say or think, reach out to your friends or family members through phone calls or texts, social media. Let them know that you're okay. You're thinking about them. So don't somehow throw that out because they decide you should not. Okay. Don't let them cut you off and separate you and isolate you. So stay connected. Second thing you may think about doing is find new sources of support, right? So if you're unable to connect with all friends, maybe if you in your church setting, right? A group in your church setting or small groups or in a community, look for other sources of support that you can be a part of. Volunteer your time and support, and that could be a supportive group that you can find strength and be energized. And here's the third thing I want to mention: stand up for yourself. Let your spouse know you won't accept that being isolated from people that they're thinking that you care about. Just be firm and clear that and express, no, I will keep in touch with these people, right? I will keep in touch with them and be okay with that. Be assertive and just hold your position. Don't argue. Don't get into this competing or debate. Just hold your position. Now, the fifth thing this spouse who might be considered narcissistic may do is disregard boundaries. Yeah, they will push against boundaries you have set, but set them anyway. But be very, very clear what those boundaries are, right? What you will not do, what you will do. Communicate them to your spouse. Let them know what is not okay, and be consistent in enforcing those boundaries. Consistency is one of the most important skills or tool you have at your disposal. Be consistent. Do not waffle. Do not give in, because the moment you do, it's all over. Second thing you can do is be assertive. When your spouse crosses your boundaries, be firm. Be firm. Now, I'm not saying to become fighting and raising your voice. No, just be assertive. Be firm. Be very controlled. Don't lose your cool, because they want to see you lose your cool, right? So don't lose your cool. Maintain, hold it. Don't let them, as the late Bob Marley would said, don't let them see you sweat, right? Hold that position. Use I statements to express your feelings and avoid blaming language, right? Avoid getting into this whole kind of thing where they want to get you. So use I statements and be assertive, be firm. And also the third thing is practice self-care. Take care of yourself, right? By engaging in activities I mentioned before, like volunteering, but activities that make you feel good. Exercising, reading a book, spending time outside, in nature, whatever that you feel that makes you feel good. Dressing up, going to the mall, sometimes going out to a movie by yourself if you want to, right? Don't let them see you sweat, right? And remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. By treating yourself that way, you're also communicated to your spouse that you deserve those things. So these are some areas I want to suggest. I would recommend that you re-listen to this video, share this video, because I've mentioned a whole ton of things inside this video, and it's packed in. I just kind of went through like a fire hose. So I would believe that you want to go back and re-listen and pause and share this with someone it could be helpful. And maybe you might be watching it and your spouse will see you watching it and may be curious, and let them watch it, right? But don't just say, hey, watch this. No. Don't do that. It's one of those ways that you are going to be very subtle, because again, they're going to be very defensive and again, get into a whole, issue that you don't want to get into. So these are the things I want to suggest to you of how you can maintain your sanity if you think that your spouse is a narcissist. And this is how to stay married if that's what you choose to do, right, into a narcissist and maintain your sanity. Because I'm sure there's other good things you may find in the relationship. Because I find sometimes people say, yes, he or she is this way, but they're a good person. They'll find something that they'll say, that's the reason why I stay. Good provider, good dad, whatever the case might be. But you want to maintain your sanity. And I hope this was helpful. Now, again, my friend, I mentioned before, you want to take the quick happier marriage assessment quiz, because I think it will help you even in figuring out what your marriage is like. Again, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. So at happiermarriagesecrets.com, you can find podcasts. You can also find a free PDF on happier marriage that I have provided for you. You can go there and get all these resources, and the links will be right below. So make sure you comment below. Let me know what was most helpful. What did you find that was insightful, that was possibly something that you never heard before, right? Just make some comment of what you thought about this video. What was most helpful? That's what I want to hear. What was most helpful about this video for you? Comment below and let me know, and I'll respond to as many as I possibly can. And there you have it, my friend. I hope you were able to find great value from this episode. And if you did, I'd like to hear from you. One of the ways to do that is to leave a rating and a review on the platform that you've just listened to this podcast on. Secondly, if you'd like to watch the YouTube version with illustrations, then head over to my YouTube channel and just search for Kingsley Grant, and you'll find that there, as well as other video broadcasts. Make sure you subscribe when you do, and also click that like button if you liked what you heard. Now, if you've not yet checked out our new website at happiermarriagesecrets.com, let me encourage you to do so. There you'll find all the podcasts and blog posts in one place. And also let me remind you to take the Happier Marriage Assessment Quiz that will score your marriage and give you the results immediately, to see where your marriage is, where you might be surprised to see what the number come out. I mean, that result of the number that is presented once you've taken the quiz. And you also get a PDF, a downloadable PDF that explains the results from that quiz as well. So you can access the quiz at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And the link, as well as all the other links, will be in the description following this episode. So thanks again for listening. And the announcer will tell you how to get a free gift just for staying to the end. Now let's make marriages happier again.
We've come to the end of another exciting show, and if you enjoyed this podcast, 1. Make sure you give this show a rating and review. 2. Subscribe to the show to get all new releases. And 3. Get your complimentary copy of the 5 Secrets to a Happier Marriage ebook at kingsleygrant.com/HMS ebook. Again, it's kingsleygrant.com/HMS ebook. See the link in the show notes. Do it today. Don't delay. Thanks so much for listening, and make sure you tell one other spouse about this show, or better yet, share it with them. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May he turn his face toward you and give you his peace, both now and forever.